that I have another meeting to be at 10. So
Yeah.
I will. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm hoping we can get this done and dusted like in 40 minutes or so. It's really just a check-in to get a report on how things went and how the money was spent and what they're thinking going forward. So thank you so much for being here.
Great. All right. Sounds good. Yeah, no, I'm happy to be here. And we actually, since we ran a Success Link program through my office, we definitely have some follow-up questions to ask about those kind of next plans. So happy to be here.
That would be great. Yeah. Because I'm thinking forward to next year as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you. Kerry, I'm just checking in. Have we got any of our attendees?
Rashad and Director Cope, he just entered, and we're still waiting for other folks on the list. If they sign up, we'll let them in.
Okay, we may not have the full roster, but we'll have a few people to ask questions of. That'll be good.
Sounds good.
Good morning, Rashad.
Councilor Breeden, good morning. How are you?
Thank you for coming in to talk with us about this program, and good to see you.
Most certainly. Great to see you as well. How are you and your family doing?
We're doing okay. These are challenging times, but just taking one day at a time.
Most certainly.
And keeping our heads up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We'll give it another few minutes. It's still before the regular time, and we'll see who else turns up.
Sounds good.
Thank you. There's Eduardo.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Eduardo. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you for coming.
Oh, of course. Pleasure to be here. Hello, Rashad. Good morning.
Good morning, Eddie. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you.
Nice.
Councillor Bach, who else is here?
Dad.
All right. Harry, are we all set? Can we get rolling? Let's
Oh no.
I was waiting for a confirmation that we're up on the web, but we are live on YouTube. So I think we can get going, and when they're able to switch that over, we should be all set.
do you think we should wait? Like, it's not, a few minutes doesn't matter, but yeah. Okay. Well, I'll go through the preliminary introductions, and then we can take it from there.
Sounds good.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Liz Braden, Chair of the Boston City Council Committee for Strong Women, Families and Communities. I am joined this morning by my colleagues, Councillor Ed Flynn and Councillor Kenzie Bach. I want to remind you that this is a public hearing. It is being recorded and will be rebroadcast on Comcast 8, RCN 82, and Verizon 964 at a later date. It is currently being streamed at boston.gov/city-council-TV. We will also take public testimony at the end of the hearing. If you're interested in testifying, please email ron.cobb, COBB@boston.gov for the link, and follow along on the live stream to know when it's your turn to speak. Please state your name and affiliation residents, and limit your comments to a few minutes to ensure that all comments and concerns can be heard. Today's hearing is on docket number 1035, order for a hearing authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $961,086.29 in the form of a grant, financial year 21 Youth Works, awarded by the Massachusetts Executive Office of Labor and Workforce Development and Industrial Corporation of Boston, to be administered by the Youth Engagement and Employment. This morning we are joined by Eduardo Franco and Rashad Cope and Tierra Lyons. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Just put you all on view. Thank you so much. I just wanted to have a hearing, and we're also joined now by Councillor Inisa Sabi George. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's a nice early start. We wanted to just talk with you about how the program went this summer and see if we can hear how it went, what the challenges were, and what was successful and what could be improved. Who would like to start?
Yes, good morning, Council Breeden and fellow city councilors. So I'm joined today, as mentioned, by Eduardo Franco. Eduardo manages our programs and partnerships here with the Department of Youth Engagement and Employment. And Eduardo's primary responsibility is overseeing this particular Youth Works funding and program implementation. So that's why Eddie is here today with us. And Tierra Lyons. Tierra is our manager of youth employment program, youth employment development and people. And Tierra's primary responsibility this summer is managing and overseeing our Success Link summer employment program. So it's for the purpose of this conversation today, it's helpful to understand that the Success Link program is the larger umbrella of our City of Boston funded youth jobs program. And the Youth Works funding is a component of the Success Link program that allows for the City of Boston and other summer job providers to provide targeted summer jobs programming to proven risk and at-risk populations. So we as a Department of Youth Engagement and Employment utilize this funding this summer to employ nearly 343 young people that self-identified as proven risk young people. So that context is helpful to understand as we're having this conversation today. I would just start off and then I can just give a quick overview about Youth Works. I would start off by saying that, summer jobs is certainly a collective effort. And this summer certainly was that, given the pandemic. There were incredible partnerships across the board with our office, HHS and Chief Martinez, the Office of Economic Development with Chief John Barrows and Midori, the Office of Workforce Development with Tren and her team, and then also our fellow summer job providers with Boston Private Industry Council, ABCD, MLK Scholars, and Youth Options Unlimited, which falls under the Office of Workforce Development. All of these folks came together to strategize around a collective and impactful approach to ensure that Boston provided summer job opportunities to its young people during this pandemic. And, I think from the onslaught of COVID-19, it was imperative to find a way to engage young people. And not all of us knew how that was going to happen. But I think everyone was committed to the most important factor, and that was our young people. So we were able to come together, and Boston was able to provide nearly over 6,000 jobs to young people across the city of Boston. So I think that that was an incredible effort that all of those parties that I mentioned played a very key role in supporting that initiative this summer. In terms of the YouthWorks funding, so the grant the YouthWorks it's a subsidized youth employment program, which is administered by the Massachusetts Commonwealth Corporation. The funding, again, is really designed to provide low-income teens and young adults between the ages of 14 to 21 years of age with their first employment experience, work readiness training, and the skills to find and keep an unsubsidized job. Within the city of Boston, this funding is administered all across the state. Here in the city of Boston, the Office of Workforce Development, they are considered the fiscal sponsor of these funds. So the funding from the state goes to the Office of Workforce Development. And then the Office of Workforce Development administers this YouthWorks funding in the form of a grant across 4 summer job intermediaries. So we receive funding, as mentioned, ABCD does, PIC does, and so does Youth Options Unlimited. And the eligibility requirements for this funding, it serves just vulnerable youth. So 20% of the population of the participants are considered to be or must be or required to be vulnerable youth. So these are court-involved youth, DYS committed youth, juvenile probation, gang-involved youth, homeless, so being a runaway, foster care youth, those who are close to aging out of foster care. So then the other 80% can be risk barrier youth. So those are youth who self-identify as receiving poor academic grades or poor performance in school, being a school dropout, high school dropout, being the child of a single parent, having a disability or special need, lack of fluency in English, or being from a foreign immigrant, or being a teen parent. So those are the requirements that make up the eligibility for young people to be considered participants of this program. And the way that we implemented this program this summer, Commonwealth Corporation had a 3-tiered model. So their first tier model was starting off strong. And then their second tier model was building a professional self. And their third tier model was crafting a career path. So the first tiered model, starting off strong, was service and project-based learning for 14 and 15-year-olds. So we did not participate in that tier. The second tier, building a professional self, was based on early and career trajectory employment for 16 to 21-year-olds. And because our Success Link program is 15 to 18, we did participate in the second tier of building a professional self. And then the third tier was crafting a career path, which is based on career pathway training and support, also for 17 to 21-year-olds. And we did also have a component of our program that fell in that area as well. And then I think that sums it up. There were two ways in which the program was implemented. One was our Boss Up model. The Boss Up model, really YouthWorks participants and partners, they participated in weekly Signal Success, which is the state's career development curriculum. So they participated in weekly live sessions with YouthWorks instructors. There were lunch and learn sessions where participants were able to virtually learn about different career paths. Participants also completed weekly career development based online modules with the assistance of the partners of where they worked at, and also some of the career development staff in our office. And then there was a YouthWorks Strong model. The YouthWorks Strong model was managed by Commonwealth Corporation, in which young people completed online modules in projects based on their interests. So some examples of that was oral history of COVID-19 in their community. Some folks worked on developing a social media strategy for small businesses or a nonprofit, and mastering the medium of podcasting. And there were other online modules as well.
Sounds very impressive. I had okay, let's go to the next person. We'll have questions at the end. We'll just keep going with the panel. Thank you. Thank you, Rashad.
You're welcome.
Who's next? Eduardo or Tierra?
Yeah, sure. Again, thank you for having us here today, and I'm very happy to be here to speak about this past summer and the YouthWorks funding that we were able to use. I think I just want to echo a lot of just what Rashad just shared. I was, more involved in the day-to-day of the actual programming, working with the career coaches, working with the staff to make sure that the program was successfully implemented. So I think some of the successes that we had this past summer was definitely the number of completers, the number of youth who successfully completed the entire program. There's always a goal of ours to make sure that number is as high as possible. There is a difference between completers and participants. And I think this year we were very happy with the number of completers. Those were who went through the entire program, who met the minimum requirement of hours for the summer. And that number was over 300 for this summer. So we were very happy about that. So I think another one was just being able to adapt to all the uncertainty of the summer, and being able to still put forward an intensive and very meaningful summer employment and development experience for these young people, while building stronger relationships with the CBOs that we've been historically working with and the new ones that we tend to bring on every year to continue to diversify the opportunities that we give to young people. So we're very happy to not only be able to continue to offer those opportunities given the COVID pandemic and all the challenges that came with that. So we are very happy about that. Very happy with the staff that we were able to bring on for the summer. The grant allows us to bring on senior career coaches and career coaches in order to implement the day-to-day requirements of the grant. And for the first time this year, we hired adults to be senior career coaches. And I think that showed tremendous improvements in the way that we interacted with our young people, the way that we developed the career coaches who were still in that 19 through 24-year-old age group, being able to intentionally provide mentoring for those career coaches directly from the senior career coaches who were able to speak to their experience. Some of them have been working in education, some of them had already worked with youth in the past. So seeing that growth of career coaches throughout the summer was really just great to see in a different dimension to our work that we just had not had in the past. I think, and always, this always comes back to the youth as well. So going through the summer, understanding the challenges, working closely with the youth and the partners to go through the challenges, especially early on in the summer, where we were still trying to figure out so much of the details of the program, how exactly we were going to be implementing it, and the changes from last summer to this summer. But at the end, we were able to get tremendous feedback from the young people who really, at the end of the day, persevered in the face of the pandemic, and taking things like having a laptop or a Chromebook for granted, and being able to adjust and still complete the modules, still be present every week, still be able to meet the demands of the program, still be able to be present for case management. So really a lot of kudos to just the young people for being able to work through all of that and still have a successful summer. I know a lot of them are now even continuing to go on into our school year program, just continuing to show their resiliency and really the importance of the work that our department is doing, and how important it is for our city to continue to support our young people through these opportunities. And lastly, I think continuing to build upon the work that the great CBOs in Boston are already doing. I think being able to work with a smaller group of partners this summer for this grant allowed us to take a deeper dive into what individual partners are doing, where some of the gaps are, and just build on those relationships that will now carry over into the school year as we continue to provide virtual opportunities to supplement programming hours that some CBOs might not be able to fulfill for our employment program. So extremely happy to continue to grow in that way and expand on the work that we did in the summer because of this grant, and the great impact that it's having on these affected young people, risk buried young people in our city. So very happy to say that we, in my eyes, had a successful summer as far as the experience that young people had, and everything that they walked away with this summer.
Thank you, Eduardo. Tiara, would you like to make some comments on how you viewed the program and what successes, challenges, your perspective on it all?
Sure. Good morning.
Thank you.
So yeah, I think that for us, this summer definitely was a challenge, and coming into it, trying to figure out the best way to engage young people, and especially virtually, what that would look like. And so in thinking about what would be something that would be engaging for young people across the board, we really just kind of landed on the fact that young people would either be entirely virtual, safe on-site, have safe on-site employment, or do some hybrid of the two. And with that, we also established some tracks, which I'm sure you have probably heard of. So we had a post-secondary track, which was Learn and Earn, where young people would be able to get paid in order to earn college credits throughout the summer. We had the SuccessLink Blue Shirts program, and then we also had a SuccessLink peer-to-peer campaign, and we had an experiential learning track as well. And so within each of those tracks, we partnered with different either city entities or other SuccessLink partner organizations in order to roll out the programming. So for our SuccessLink Learn and Earn program, we worked in collaboration with our office, the City of Boston's Office of Workforce Development, to have young people be able to have the ability to take college courses at Bunker Hill, Benjamin Franklin Institute of Technology, Roxbury Community College, or Urban College of Boston. We had a total of around 413 participants in that track, and that is youth between the ages of 15 through 18, and then also our SuccessLink leaders who are between the ages of 19 through 24. For the SuccessLink Blue Shirts program, that was managed in collaboration with the Boston Parks and Rec Department, as well as the Department of Public Works. And we hired around 214 youth, SuccessLink youth and leaders in that track. And then the SuccessLink peer-to-peer campaign was a campaign that we did in collaboration with 4 partner organizations that we typically partner with. So that was Artists for Humanity, a Center for Community Health, Education, Research, and Service, the Possible Project, and Boston Housing Authority. And they produced some really, really incredible projects, one being a mural on the Madison Park campus. So there was a lot of incredible work done there where young people were essentially empowered to use their voices to talk about what their experience has been in this pandemic, and how that's impacted them. And then finally, the SuccessLink experiential learning platform, Practera, that we used. We did work in collaboration with Northeastern University to roll that out. And we had around 311 participants in that. So all in all, we got to see what we could do, really. I think that we had to think outside of the box. We had to be innovative, and we had to really just tap into the partnerships across the city and also within our own partner organizations, and say, hey, what can we do? How can we think creatively about, really just making it so that this is a summer that is not lost for these young people, especially given that for a lot of them, they're just like stuck in the house. So overall, we did hire a total of 3,758 youth and leaders. So it was around 3,498 youth and then 260 SuccessLink leaders. So leaders, again, are 19 through 24 and our youth are 15 through 18. And I think one thing that I'd like to highlight, and I know that we highlighted this on our calls with the mayor, is that we hired more youth this summer in a pandemic than we've hired in a regular year, and it was a heavy lift for sure, but it really showed the dedication that we as a city have to making sure that young people have meaningful work experiences and opportunities across the board. So yeah, I think that that's about it in terms of what I'd like to share. But overall, yes, there were challenges, but I think it was also an incredible opportunity for the city and city departments and our nonprofit partner organizations to show up. And I think that we did that.
Thank you, Tiara. I'll open it up for questions. Would Councillor Bach, would you like to, no, Councillor Flynn, I think you were
Yes, he's
probably
ahead of me. He's ahead of me.
He was probably here before I was this morning.
Well,
Councillor Flynn, you were here first. Would you like to ask some questions of the panel?
yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your work on this important committee and on this subject. We're lucky to have a leader like you, so thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to the panelists, Rashid, Eduardo, and Tiara. Very informative conversation this morning. Thank you for your work that you've done. And for Tiara, I was interested in knowing and learning that the partnerships you've developed with Roxbury Community College, Bunker Hill, and the Urban College. And as far as I'm concerned, I think those are the three best colleges in Boston. But can you talk about that partnership? What type of courses would they be taking at those colleges? And also, are you able to develop or expand on that in terms of helping them get any type of employment from that college experience as well? Maybe partnering up with a business in Boston.
Hey, Tara, I can jump in here real quick. So Council Flynn, the partnership with the community college was engineered by the Office of Workforce Development. You all may know that the Office of Workforce Development in the city has a free community college program. So because of the existing partnerships that OWD has had with the community colleges, it allowed us to be able to create this summer experience for the young people. So over at Bunker Hill and Roxbury Community College and Urban College and BFIT, young people participated in business courses, psychology courses. There was even a Google IT certification course that young people were able to participate in as well. Because this was our first summer implementing this type of a program, what we really wanted to see was, one, whether or not there was interest there from young people. And I think this by far was one of the job opportunities where we saw the most interest. We saw nearly about 600 young people that expressed interest in this track, which proves that young people not only care about their careers, but they care about post-secondary education and the trajectory of, filling that gap from high school and college and making sure that they are prepared to be able to succeed in post-secondary education. We have not bridged the gap for connecting young people to jobs through these college partnerships. I think because this is the first summer we piloted this initiative, I think we have some data that OWD has collected that we all, will continue to look at and continue to make the best informed decisions about this particular initiative going into next summer.
No, that's thank you, Rashid. That's great to learn. Thank you for the incredible work that all three of you and your workers are doing as well. I just wanted to highlight the tremendous work you're doing. I failed to mention Ben Franklin, which is in my district, but they're doing excellent work. And Bunker Hill Community College also has a satellite office in Villa Victoria. So I see a lot of young people going to that program as well. So again, just want to highlight the incredible work you're doing, but also the work of our community colleges in Boston. They play a critical role in workforce and in education and training. So thank you and keep up the good work. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Flynn. Councillor Bach.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And thank you to the whole YE team for being here today. This is something I care quite a lot about. And we were very pleased to have a bunch of Success Link youth with us this summer. And so worked quite directly with Tiara around that. And it was great. And we'd love to do it again. I think Rashad, you'll have to forgive me. You'll remember from the spring, I'm like a budget questions person. So I have some follow up on that front. And then some questions just about kind of logistical details. So mainly focus on Success Link, just because that's what we were touching this summer. And one thing was just, Tiara, could you repeat again those numbers in terms of the final counts? I know it was like about 2,700 and 3,700 and 270, but I just missed.
Good thing. So it was a total of 3,498 youth.
Mm-hmm.
And 260 leaders. So the final number was 3,758 in total.
Got it. And then Rashad, did you say that overall across the city, it was 6,000 this summer?
Yeah, so the number that we had collected, and this is these are numbers from PIC, ABCD, MLK Scholars as well. We collected numbers about 6,006 jobs. I think that what we are doing is waiting on, well, not waiting, but there are numbers that have been tallied after we've collected that 6,006 number from those providers as well, but it teeters around that number.
Okay. And so it's fair to say that, I mean, we in the city that, am I right? I'm trying to remember. I think last year was about 3,300 in Success Link. Is that right? I think.
So the final number was somewhere around 2,900. Our goal for Success Link is always around 3,300. So 3,100 youth and then 200 leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And so this year our goal was a little bit higher because we did have the additional funding. So we were able to hire more.
Right. Okay. So the goal. So the goal is always that 3,100 and 200. Is that right?
Yes. In the regular year.
But then last year in practice, it was 2,900. Is that including the leaders?
That includes the leaders. That's
including
correct.
The leaders. Okay. So, right. So I think it's worth noting just for the public, and I think you guys have said this, but you haven't said it as clearly that, I mean, the city's youth program went up and everyone else's youth programs went down this summer, right? I mean, and I wish that were not so, in the sense that I wish that we were also talking about the private side going up, because if they had, then we would have looked at a record number of youth this summer. And instead we're talking about the city having helped to fill that gap. Right.
Correct.
And so, and I guess one thing I'd like to understand, I know we've had a conversation about how the funds that are left over from the Success Link program in the summer roll into year-round jobs. And I've pushed the department on really wanting to be able to project numbers of year-round jobs more clearly and kind of do some projection on that in the past. And also we had a commitment from the budget office for 1,000 year-round jobs this year. And so I want to understand kind of where did we end up with money from the Success Link bucket that could move over, and kind of where are we on the year-round jobs front right now?
Yeah, so I think Council Block, it's when we think about funding left over from the summer. So as you all remember, Mayor Walsh made the commitment to invest an additional $4.2 million into our department this summer. That funding was CARES funding, right? So that funding was definitely tied to summer jobs, and that funding had to be used up by, I believe, the end of December. So a large part of that funding went towards youth wages this summer, but also there were some non-personnel expenses. It covered the cost for the college courses for the young people. It covered supplies and materials. It also covered career coach staff. So the career coach staff that help oversee the college pathway, We had a virtual track, so it covered staff for that as well. So that funding does not carry over into the school year. So what we're looking at right now is, and I can get you the exact figures, but our city dollars, aside from the CARES funding, was roughly about 6 million. So we have budgeted about 6.6 million.
6.6 million, yeah.
Yep, there you go.
I remember.
For
Where's means?
for our Success Link program. And we so we believe that roughly, and again, I would have to go back to the budget office to kind of get an exact figure on these numbers. But going into the school year, we are projecting 1,000 jobs, and I don't have that number for. Let me see if I can find that number for you, because I did not bring that. But there is leftover funding from the summer, from the Success Link dollars that is going into the school year. I can tell you how much we budgeted for the school year. I can tell you that in 1 second. So for the school year, with 1,000 jobs, that 1,000 jobs for the 26 weeks or so, we budgeted 3.3 million. So that's 3,315,000. And that's for 1,000 youth. And then, yeah, so that's how much we budgeted for the school year. Yeah.
And were you able to start any of those jobs in September? I know there was a conversation about kind of when those jobs get started, September versus November versus later. Where are we on that?
So we had youth start on November 16th. So we have approximately almost half of the youth already hired. And so those youth did start as of November 16th. Our program historically has always started mid-November. And then it runs all the way up into the end of April.
No, I just know that we'd love to expand it. And I should just say, I think it's really important to say, I think everybody knows that it's a really hard time on lots of fronts right now. And that both means that a lot of our youth are in families that are really struggling to make ends meet. And so that youth job is a critical piece of the sort of family economy. And then also, we're very concerned about rising violence in the city. And so I'm very anxious. I'm asking the same questions as some of the state money that went, towards funding jobs programs. Like, are these actually turning into jobs on the ground? And like, how quickly are we getting them to people? And sort of how do we really make sure that those are opportunities that are real for people? So I'm very antsy about that right now, knowing very much that you guys are on the same team on trying to make that stuff happen.
And Council Buck, what I would say in terms of starting the school year jobs earlier is we do share the same sentiment that we would like to start the program as early as possible. I think that on our end, there is tremendous work that needs to go into the setup of the ISIM system. So we literally have to terminate every young person that worked in the summer. So we have to clean up the system. And then we have to get ready to set the system. So we have to release a partner application. We have to at least allow for a minimum of 3 weeks for partners who are interested in the school year to apply, because we can't assume that all partners from the summer will be participating in the school year jobs program. In fact, we typically see about 30 or 40 less partners in the school year than we do in the summer. So we open up a new application process that's open for about 3 weeks. And then from there, we have to take the job data that's collected from those applications and that needs to be uploaded into the ISIM system all over again. And then the system has to be tested to make sure that it works for the young people before we can open the youth application. And then the youth application typically needs to be open for a minimum of about 3 weeks as well. So while we will want to start it earlier, there are a lot of administrative fronts on our end, just given the system that we're using, which is the city system. There's a lot of administrative things on our end that even if we expedite those things, we couldn't start no earlier than about like the beginning of like a November or so, because it takes that time to set everything up.
So one of the questions that I actually got from a lot of programs, folks who are providing Success Link and are the folks who also provide the year-round jobs, is there any way, I mean, for us to, it sort of makes intuitive sense to both the youth and the programs to set up a kind of like a more efficient path for the kind of folks who are really staying on from the summer program into the year-round program? Like, is there a way that we could, instead of having all those folks reapply anew, like you're talking about with that big gap, have the folks who do it for the summer be able to, like, you know, check a relatively easy box around like, yeah, I'm continuing, and have that sort of same entity start getting paid? Because it seems like, I think for a lot of our organizations, if there was a way to route sort of existing youth who have already gotten to know the folks into a job that they could then start with the school year in September, if new people who found the whole thing completely anew had to come in November, that would be okay. But it's I think folks are both frustrated with the time that the youth can't be paid and engaged, and also worry that you just lose a lot of people. Like, there's a lot of folks on the off ramp just because of the complexity of the system. So I was wondering if there's anything that you guys have worked on to kind of create that expedited channel for the youth who are already in Success Link.
Rashad, do you want me to take that?
Sure.
So I think that for us, one thing that we have done is we have allowed for youth to be rolled over from season to season. And so that does eliminate their need to have to complete all of the hiring paperwork all over again. So that is a huge initiative that we've worked on in collaboration with our Office of Human Resources. To make it so that, again, I think one thing that has been incredibly difficult for a lot of young people is that they do have to be hired as City of Boston employees in order to work with us. And so we understand, all that goes into that. Some of the things that they have to do would be required regardless of where they work, just because these are federal and state guidelines. But then some things are like city, like our residency, where they need to provide residency documents. So we have worked in collaboration with our Office of Human Resources for that. I think that in terms of our partners, we have worked to significantly reduce the length of the partner application. At this point, it takes partners maybe about 10 minutes to complete a partner application. I think even if we were to say, have a button that a partner just pushed to indicate that they'd like to come continue to be partners for fall, that still would require us to open up a youth application. And so that's exactly what we have now. We had around 400 and some odd youth indicate that they were going to be rolled over. So we have youth that were hired in the summer that are still active now going into the school year. However, we still need to open up the application for youth that aren't already connected to organizations that we partner with. And so I think that even in all the things that we've done to better streamline the process, there's always going to be this need to open up an application. There's always going to be a need to have partners update information because our partners, especially because they're nonprofit organizations, staffing changes. There are always a lot of changes that we need to have updated. I think that at the very minimum, and Rashad, I echo what Rashad said, there's always going to need to be a minimum of a month to 2 months of a setup period, just given that we will always need to roll out applications for partners and youth, regardless of how much we shorten the partner application, and then regardless of how many young people we roll over from season to season.
Yeah, I guess I think to me, like, all the youth are right. They're all our kids. Like, you have to be a City of Boston kid to do this. And I just think that so much when we talk about pathways, right? like so much of like successful pathways is like not losing the handoff. And so to me, like there's a policy priority to the idea of like, hey, we've got returning youth who want to stay involved in an organization year round. Like we should just, I don't think we need to be waiting for an open application to like funnel those youth into continuing to work with their partner organizations. Like my instinct is you keep that going and then you have some, and then you have a like, oh, and here's our on ramp. I agree with you that we couldn't have that be the only way into these things because we're trying to create lots of on ramps and opportunities. But it just strikes me that it just is choppy, honestly.
Yeah, Council Body, I think we love to look at that more. I think I'm a big fan of making sure we can try to streamline processes, especially that benefits our young people. So even with you, like we love to explore just what that looks like. Because I think the idea that we always struggle with is that there's always more youth than we have jobs, especially for the school year. So if we go through that process and then there's young people that say, hey, if you guys are interested in working in the school year, then we'll allow you guys to continue to carry over. Then that number exceeds the number of jobs that we have for the school year. So now we have to begin to say, how do we prioritize what young people this opportunity goes to? And I think that's where we struggle at because there's always more interest for young people than we have jobs. So even this school year, like the application is going to be open, there's going to be young people that will apply that will not be able to get a job because we don't have as many jobs available for all the young people that are interested in participating in the school year jobs program. So then it comes down to equity and it comes down, okay, so why is that young person able to continue if these young people who also want to continue cannot continue at that same organization? So I think that's why we have this school year and summer processes separate, because an organization can have 30 jobs during the summer, but because of the number of jobs that we go from 3,000 to 1,000 for the school year, that organization may only have like 5 to 10 jobs during the school year, but all of their young people want to come back. And if so it's really, that's the type of thinking that, that we experience in our office, that makes that part a little bit challenging, just to have young people go straight through September and October without setting up, a school year process. But again, I think your point is well taken. Love to kind of, get your additional thinking. Like we can sit down and share with you exactly what our process looks like from end to end. And then you may have some ideas that, we're not looking at, and that's certainly welcome.
Very good.
Yeah, no, I would love to do that, to sit down and really talk about, because I think also, and because we ran a Success Link program this summer, we've got a bunch of specific kind of things just around, timesheets, and is there some kind of a unified orientation that we could like run for the youth, and kind of thinking about how you guys figure out staffing for that bubble where everything's hitting. I mean, obviously this was an exceptionally crazy summer on that front. But trying to think about a bunch of processes, but I'm mindful of having taken a lot of time today. So, but I would love to have that. So Fernando, I think you're on the call. It'd be great if we could set that up.
We've been joined by Councillor Mejia. Welcome. Councillor Asabi George, this has been a very rich conversation, so I'm letting it freewheel a little, so pardon me, Councillor Asabi George.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm going to actually throw a little bit of a monkey wrench freewheeling, because I do have another commitment this morning, and really appreciate the thoughtfulness and depth in which my colleagues have gotten into their questions. So just I want to say a general appreciation, because I know that this summer especially was really difficult, especially as we work to do more with our young people and give them more opportunities and create more rich opportunities for them to participate in and hopefully build for the future. So just want to thank you for your all of your commitment to our kids and to these opportunities, and we'll certainly review the rest of this meeting as I do need to sign off, but just want to send my thanks, offer my thanks, and my support certainly for this this funding to go through. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Mejia, did you have any questions? Okay. I'll run back and ask.
I'm sorry, I'm on my phone, so I'm technically challenged at this moment, but I am happy to be here and I do have a few questions if that's okay.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for hosting the hearing. Thank you to the administration. My questions really are, I'm curious. I know we talked about the recruitment of young people and how the pathways into some of these opportunities. I'm just curious about, and if I've missed this, I'm sorry, what the recruitment looks like in terms of getting employers to increase the number of slots that they're providing for youth. I'm just curious about what that recruitment looks like and what that strategy is. And as the chair of workforce development, I am really hoping to lean in and work alongside you and your team to help support that advocacy. So just wanted to just plug that. But can you just talk to, these are just a few questions. Can you just talk a little bit about some of the community-based organizations who you are partnering with in workforce development? How are they chosen and how are the young people you work with assigned to them? Just curious about that. And can you walk us through the application process? Is the application in more than one language? Are there opportunities for students who do not speak English? And I'm just curious, what if any opportunities exist? I know that even if you are undocumented, you can have a tax ID and still be able to work. So I'm just curious what, if anything, the city is thinking of doing to help create workforce development opportunities for young people who still may be undocumented. And I don't even know if that's even a legal thing to ask. And I wish Lydia Edwards was here because she'll let me know about myself. But I'm asking anyways, just because I'm curious.
Sure. So, Councilor Mejia, thank you for joining. So what I can do is I'll tackle your third question first, and then Tiara, we can come back and maybe you can tackle the partner application. And I think there was a question in there about the youth application as well. So this summer, and this is in regards to immigrant youth, this summer under the leadership of Yusuf Valley and the Moya team, the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Advancement, the City of Boston was able to implement a special summer initiative called the Dreamers Fellowship, right? And the Dreamers Fellowship this summer, thanks to Mayor Walsh and the Boston Resiliency Fund, it was a pilot fellowship program for immigrants, who came to this country as children, the Dreamers. The collaboration came together to address a critical gap in our YEE programming to ensure equity and opportunity for all youth. So through a grant from the Boston Resiliency Fund, there were 4 immigrant nonprofits, where we was able to partner with to put 50 Dreamers through a 3-week summer program. And those were, students that were Latino, Brazilian, and Caribbean background. And the youth were all residents of the city of Boston. They was chosen from an existing clientele of those nonprofits that we partner with. And some of the highlights of that program, there was 20 hours per week. There was an in-person component and there was an online component. There was 15 hours of work readiness and skill building. And there was 5 hours of academic support and leadership development for those young people. The programs were in East Boston. So the young people came from like East Boston, Brighton, Hyde Park, and Mattapan. The young people received a $300 weekly stipend. And the total investment was roughly about $51,000 from the Boston Resiliency Fund, which was private funding. So this did not come from our SuccessLink funding. So this was private funding that was used to support this program because we knew, how important it was to begin to find ways to fill that gap of providing opportunities to immigrant youth. And again, the Moya team, was really spearheading this effort. So kudos to, Yusufi and Renato and their amazing team for taking the lead on this initiative.
That's great. That's great. I do have a quick follow-up before we move on to the other two questions. Just really quick, I'm curious about what plans are in place in terms of sustainability, and I'm curious about young people in particular who are, I would say they're a little bit older, but they're still 18 to 22. There's a gap for that age bracket of young people who right now don't really fit within the stereotypical nonprofit sector, and these young people are literally falling through the cracks because they have either phased out of school, are unemployed, underemployed, and so just curious about what efforts exist even within not just undocumented students who fall in that area, but just overall the 18 to 22-year-old.
Sure thing. So in terms of sustainability of the Dreamers Fellowship, there is ongoing conversation with our office, Moyer and HHS, around ways to continue to fund that initiative even going into the new year. So more information will be forthcoming as those conversations continue. And then also thinking about next summer and how we can continue to grow this initiative for that population as well. So those conversations are actively happening. And then very quickly on Council Mejia, in terms of just opportunities for that young adult population, we do provide jobs.
So my
Hello?
Continue, Rashid.
Yeah, we do provide jobs for 19 to 24-year-olds. I think the challenge is it's a very small number. And I think that, we all can begin to think about ways to increase, that number of jobs for 19 to 24-year-olds because it has not been a staple component of our successing program. There hasn't been a lot of emphasis on increasing the number of jobs for the young adult population. And then there are also other incredible opportunities through the Office of Workforce Development when it comes to providing, pathway opportunities for that population as well. So I think it requires a continued conversation with various city departments who are touching that young adult population to see what already exists for that population, to really identify the gaps in that population as well, so we can find ways to address those gaps that you are talking about in a very intentional way.
super inspired by all the work that you guys are doing. Thank you for that.
I had just a few more questions. You
What
said
about
that
my
this,
other question? I'm
oh,
sorry.
hold on.
Okay.
Yeah,
I can jump in and
I
answer.
beg your pardon. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So in terms of our partner application, our partners are really selected based on a couple of different criteria. So at least what we share with them we have like a partner application overview. We base our acceptance of partners on their application. We base it on youth feedback. So typically if a partner is working with us season to season, we do survey those young people and we ask them about their experience with those partner organizations. So we will use that feedback. We also, take into consideration any prior SuccessLink program participation. And so all in all, when we're looking at a partner application, we're looking at them holistically, and then we're breaking down what kind of organization they are, whether or not they have the capacity to be a partner with us, meaning like, do they have the capacity to send in timesheets on time, to hire, assist in the hiring process of these young people? Are they developing young people? Do they have solid job descriptions? And we're looking at all of that when we're assessing partner organizations. And the way that it typically works is that once we assess the partner's application, we give them a score. And when we score them, we use that score as a basis to allocate out positions to them. So what that would look like is, let's say we have 3,000 positions and we have over 215 partners that we accept as SuccessLink partners. We're then going back and initially we look at their raw score data and we're saying, okay, how many youth can we allocate out based on the number of slots that we have available? And that's typically what we do I think that's simplifying it, but that's typically what we do to be able to allocate out positions to these organizations. In terms of youth placement, we do not actually place youth at these partner organizations. The young people apply via the City of Boston website. So we have our own SuccessLink application site where we have all of the partner organizations listed and the job descriptions that they've provided. The young people apply directly to that partner organization, and then the partners review those young people. They sometimes interview those young people and they select those young people. And from there, what our team does is we take them and we move them through the hiring process. So we assign them onboarding paperwork, everything they need to get hired, and then we hire them, and then we manage the payroll. So although the partners are sending in timesheets and everything else, we're managing the payroll aspect of their work. I think you asked another question around whether or not the application is translated, and the application currently is not. What is translated are all of the documents that we have to help young people know what documents they need to bring in order to get hired. And we call that document our document checklist. So we do have that document checklist in multiple languages. We do not have our application in different languages.
Is that a capacity issue or a budget issue?
No, I think it's actually just more of a system issue. I do not believe that the applicant tracking system ISIMS that we use has the capacity to do that. And if it does, that's not something that we've been made aware of. So it's only, the application currently is only in one language for that reason.
Thank you so much, Councilor Breeden. I know I probably overextended my time, but I do appreciate
No,
the
I think, thank you, Councillor Mejia. I know this is an issue that's near and dear to your heart. I feel it's also really important to get a good handle on where we're at and where we're headed to. I applaud you all for the great work that's happened this year. The fact that the number of young people who participated in the middle of a pandemic was increased over last year is pretty phenomenal. So thank you. I have just a couple of quick questions. You said that the grant had allowed you to hire senior career coaches, and that that seemed to improve your outcomes in terms of participation. Is that something that you would consider continuing next year, that you would be able, if you had the resources, you'd be able to hire those extra senior career coaches to do extra mentoring, and it seemed to have borne fruit this year?
Eddie, you can jump in now.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I think that the results that we saw, not only in the impact that the senior career coaches had on their engagement with the actual young people, but thinking about the interns in our office and the continued development that we want to ensure that we're providing for them as well. So yeah, if it was up to me, I would absolutely continue to hire those adult for those positions, just to ensure that that continues, and we're able to further develop our interns as well as the young people that we work with.
How many career coaches did you hire this year, the senior ones?
We had 3. So we had 3 senior career coaches and 6 career coaches. Each senior career coach was paired up with 2 career coaches. And we really built out what was a pilot case management sort of program for those career coaches, where they met weekly with the senior career coaches, set goals for the summer. We're able to receive feedback from the senior career coaches after having facilitated a virtual workshop where, we're delegated different tasks according to their skill set in order to get the work done, but also to challenge their own skills and further their own development as the summer went along. And in our exit conversations with all our career coaches, they all spoke glowingly about their relationships with their senior career coaches. And a lot of them left the door open for returning next year. So we're hoping that we're able to continue those relationships and just honestly expand on the number of career coaches and senior career coaches that we hire in order to, have another successful summer in terms of that relationship.
That sounds great. You also mentioned some gaps in your program. Where's the noise coming from? You mentioned gaps. I wrote down gaps in close sequence of the talking about. Were there particular gaps that you identified or that you think we would be worth looking into to figure in terms of reach or outcomes or whatever?
I think as far as gaps, one of the ones that first comes to mind is just a technology gap is one. I think that we did a good job of doing our best to ensure that all of our young people had the technology they needed. I know that some partners and some youth came directly to our office to pick up equipment, but I think as we went along the summer, we just continued to identify sort of gaps in that way. So even though, let's say, a young person had a Chromebook, the next issue might have been maybe a stable internet connection. So then how do we sort of rectify that? So being able to maybe provide hotspots for young people to be able to connect wherever they are was one gap. Thinking about gaps, the engagement in the beginning of the summer surely was challenging just because there was so much uncertainty into what the rest of the summer was. Even just coming to the decision of like, hey, we are going to have a summer to then actually put action forward to make sure that we did in the earlier parts of June and then into early July. There were definitely some gaps there and just how do we do it? But I think once the program started July 6th and we continued to have, we started to have that day-to-day engagement with the young people and the partners, we were just able to fill in those gaps because we saw, again, as I mentioned earlier, the perseverance of the young people to continue to show up regardless of their own, situations at home, whether they had a privacy to even be able to log on or even a stable internet connection that I mentioned, and being able to work with the partners who really have those solid relationships with these young people, especially with the young people that continue to work at their sites season to season, and being able to sort of close that gap in engagement was tremendous. And I think by the end of the summer, just in some of our partner feedback, we saw that some of them said that they were open to returning to working through this grant next summer, and I feel like we're only going to build on that and close those gaps as we plan for next summer.
That's excellent. Thank you. So I'm cognizant of the time. I want one more question. Just looking for all you've learned this year, looking forward to next year. What's your biggest takeaway in terms of how things might be changed or improved going forward?
Yeah, Councilor Breeden, I would say that we do have a model given this past summer that if we are still experiencing this pandemic, we will be better prepared to implement a summer program next summer for young people. So I think that that's something that that's a huge takeaway for us. And then I think the next thing that's a big takeaway is us finding ways to continue those programs that young people were really interested in. And the college track is one of those. So we've had conversations with the Office of Workforce Development to begin to think about how that can actually happen. So we want to make sure that what young people need and what they're interested in, we find ways to create those opportunities. So those are some takeaways from this summer that we are going to use as we prepare for summer 2021.
Very good. I want to thank you all very, very sincerely for all the great work that has happened over this summer under very challenging circumstances. And thank you for all coming in and telling us what was the good and the good report out this morning. And I really appreciate all of you. So thank you so much. I will now call this hearing adjourn.
We do have one person queued up for public testimony.
Thank you, Kerry. I was forgetting about the, who have we got on to testify? Oh, Karen?
Oh my goodness, am I the only person?
Well, you're very welcome. We're very pleased to see you.
Well,
Thank you, Karen.
hi, my name's Karen Money Brodek. I'm the fortunate enough to serve as the president of the Emerald Necklace Conservancy. We're a nonprofit that supports the parks on the not so fancy Zoom background behind me, which is not a Zoom background. A computer won't do a Zoom background. This is the map of the Emerald Necklace. I have the great pleasure of working with actually a couple of people I see on here today, Ms. Lyons and Mr. Cope, with the summer and our fall program. And we are very fortunate to get a number of students in our summer program. And this summer, you know, we were able to increase our number of students in the program. My staff started doing, you know, our teaching virtually, which was not what we have normally done in the past, but we were able to serve more kids than ever. And I'm very, very pleased about that. I think employing kids and finding more ways to engage them in their parks was a real pleasure. I am excited, and I hope that the fall program can start as soon as possible. We also would like to place more kids in our fall program, so I'm excited to see these kinds of funding opportunities come through, because perhaps that will allow YE to do more and have more resources. So I just saw that, you know, this came through, and I'd love to, you know, find ways to continue to collaborate. I mean, I really applaud how quickly YE was able to flex and change and set up, I know, new systems to process students. I know that that's a lot of the complexity. And if there's ways that the Conservancy and our education staff, Kent Jackson and others, can help continue to increase the number of young people served, I think that would be great. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, and it was a program like this that really turned me on to parks and environmental work. And so I'm just very excited about this, and I'd like to know, you know, ways that I could serve more young people. This summer we hoped to maybe serve up to 100. I think we ended up serving about 30, and I'm wondering if, you know, there are ways we could either help find more youth or find, you know, figure out ways we could be serving more kids.
Very good. Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you. And thank you for taking your students this summer. It's all of our partners are essential to the success of all these programs. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kerry, is there anyone else in the waiting room?
Nope, we're all set.
All set. Thank you again, everyone. I will now call this meeting to adjourn. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Kerry.
No problem. Have a good afternoon.